Welcome to another episode of Three Men in a War Game. I'm Paul, and the new prices of the monolith are a pain in the butt.
Damn it, Paul.
All right, cool. He didn't steal mine. Go, Chopz.
I'm Kevin. I don't love the new GW price hikes, but I just can't quit their small boxes.
This is Potter, and the price of the new intercessors are just too damn high.
See, we didn't take yours.
Woo!
And I still got to say, but.
Oh my god, stop. All right, today, on this edition of 3 Minute War Game, we are talking, what is the name of this game again?
It's called Don't Look Back.
There you go, that one, Don't Look Back.
Blackside Studios.
Also known as Don't Check Your Notes.
Show notes, who needs those?
We don't need no stinking show notes.
Oh my gosh.
We write at dawn, guys.
So, hobby progress, you guys. I'll start. And I painted and built the entire Don't Look Back box.
Like a madman.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a very special episode because
actually,
it was. I was gonna make the callback for that later. Anyway, thanks for ruining my later joke. Don't Look Back is super awesome, and this episode is very special because Paul and I actually just finished playing a remote session of the game. If you don't know Don't Look Back, obviously we're going to talk about it here, but it is a fully cooperative game, and all of the player information is open to all the players. So when you play multiplayer, either each person can play a cast member, or what Paul and I did is we played as a duo, and we just made the decisions for the 4 characters together. As we were moving through. So we basically played it as a fully cooperative sort of RPG style game. And we have it fresh in our mind because we literally just finished a game.
That's awesome.
Yep. So that's what you painted. So are we skipping hobby chat and going straight into the game?
No, that's hobby chat. I was just saying that the hobby chat, it was related because we just played with all my painted and built stuff.
Yes. And it was awesome. That table looked phenomenal, by the way. Between the cabin that you got with the game and the other river and trees and
the car,
rusted out car and stuff like that, it looked fantastic.
Yeah, I really like that cabin. That's nice looking terrain. But TT always does really good with their terrain.
Yeah, Blacksite's great with it.
Yep. What? How about you, Potter? You've probably still been reading, huh?
Yeah, I've. None. I've been reading still, like a madman. So,
yeah, but since our last episode, you read a 1,200-page book.
Oh, it's only 1,080 pages. The 1,200-page book is in my room that I just picked up today.
That's because you have the trade paperback. That's why.
Right? Yeah, I got the big. I got the big one, not the mass paperback. I got the trade.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's why. Yeah. In a mass paperback, that's like 1,200 pages. That's a lot of reading.
In a week. In a week. I finished that book in a week.
That's a whole lot. I'm impressed.
And I've got Oathbringer sitting on the shelf, ready to go once I'm done with Edge Dancer, and hopefully I can get that done by this weekend and be ready for Rhythm of War on time.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. You have a week and a half. You'll probably finish early.
Yeah, I hope so.
Which is crazy. So you haven't hobbied. I didn't do a whole lot. I did, last week I talked about all the Infinity models that I painted. I kind of stalled out on my Suryat, but he's sitting here pretty close to done. But today I did paint up, I almost said Harrison Ford. I did paint up Han Solo.
I mean, close enough.
For Legion, which was super exciting. And I also got a good amount of work done on the Rebel Commandos as well.
So you painted Han today?
What's that?
You painted Han today.
Yeah.
I thought you had already had him painted. I thought you were just showing him off again. I thought you had done him already.
No, I had like done the blocked in some of the main colors.
Gotcha.
But everything else I did today, like I did all the highlighting and the shading and his hair the wrong color. And then I did the work on the Pathfinders, and I started using the soft and darker tones of the Army Painter Quick Shades, and they're phenomenal.
Yeah, those are good paints.
especially for the speedier route I want to take with the Legion stuff. It works out very well.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But, and then I did put Carnival models on bases today.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. That showed up at my house the other day. Hashtag thanks, Donald.
Yeah, big thanks to our patron, Donald, or Wookie Gunner, as some people may know him outside of from different areas in life, different forums and stuff. Super good guy. Amazing that he sent that for you guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It was an awesome, that was great.
So he had sent up a 2-player starter, so I got mine on bases. I'm going to get Potter his half of the starter tomorrow, and he can get them on bases, and then we're going to give it a go and see how it is. And
nice. Who took the guild models?
I'm grabbing guild. Paul wanted
to. Do you really think I'm not taking weird fishmen?
Yeah, Paul, I figured Paul would take the Rasher or Rashar.
I didn't even give Chris an option on that. I said, I'm taking the fishmen.
You get Ezio. I'm taking these fish boys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
and basically his response was, I expected that.
Yeah. I was like,
I will say the fish boys with contrast paint and dry brushing look pretty good.
Yep, that's the Fisher guys. I'm definitely probably taking that route with.
If you stick with them, I want to see the Shark Boy painted up as a street shark.
Oh, the one with that's
like
eating
hulked
the guy?
over, the giant one. Oh,
yeah.
no, that one.
When I eventually get it at some point, if Jim ever.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you stick with it, street shark.
All right, we can.
I'm
we
excited.
Can probably match that.
Someday I'm going to play my painted copy. Someday, it's going to happen.
I mean, one way or another, it'll be jawsome.
Hey-o.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So thanks, Donald.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, it's so awesome.
And everybody else expect a show on that some point soon because we'll have some experience.
I've been saying soon since August of last year. So we'll try and make it happen. I mean, I have a copy. You guys have a copy. You'll probably get it played before I do, unfortunately. But yeah, well, man, I want to play it so bad.
Yeah. Well, you should have but you're up in cold land, so you probably can't do park games anymore.
We'll just do
the park games are...
We'll do a remote session like you guys did today.
Yeah, we'll talk about why Don't Look Back works as a remote play game. It's harder to remote play a 2-player, like a one-on-one game, because like moving precisely where someone wants to and making sure they see every angle and all that stuff is harder to do.
Don't Look Back with being co-op is probably a lot easier. Yeah, I get that.
But I for some reasons I feel like Carnival might be the opposed game that would work at, but we'll get to what my theory is on that. At a later. Wait, we're not talking about Carnival later. I'm confused in my head. No, all right. No, I think Carnival will work because the rule specifically tells you that you don't have to be nitpicky about things. Yes,
true, fair enough.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, if it's going to be something cinematic. You know, that extra millimeter or two that you're not in range, just do it.
Yeah. And I think if you and your opponent are good friends and you're making sure as the person who is actually staging the terrain to communicate with your opponent about sight lines and what they could and couldn't see and being good about that, it could work. Yeah. All right. So Carnival is coming. But topic of the show.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm excited.
Don't Look Back. So I think the way we should do this is we should talk about what Don't Look Back is. Do our normal breakdown, right? What are the key points of the game? How does it work? What are the basic rules? What's the flow of the game? What does it feel like to play the game? And then we can give a breakdown of the game we played so that somebody could actually hear in practice like how cinematic the game is.
Yes, perfect.
A collection of rules doesn't really give you the playing experience the way that actually playing a game will. Right. So let's give the bullet points. So Don't Look Back is a cooperative miniatures storytelling game, I think is how I would describe it. It is a minis war game in that, pushing minis around, measuring stuff with a tape measure, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely more aimed at a fully cooperative, sort of like semi-role playing sort
absolutely.
of deal. So this game is published by Black Site Studios, famous for pre-colored laser cut terrain. Honestly, some of the best laser cut terrain in the business. You've heard our Relic Blade episode. If you play Relic Blade, they make some of the best terrain for Relic Blade, and even some that is officially licensed. So you should check out Black Site Studios just in general for your terrain needs, because they have lots of cool stuff. This game, though, is their first game, written by Matthew Burns. The rule book, just to give some context, it's a short rule book. It's 32 pages, huge text, lots of pictures, and again, the font's massive. So it's a very small, compact, lightweight rule set. The game plays on a 3x3 surface and there's a lot of things that are not conventional for other war games. So we'll get into each one of those as we go. Paul, do you have anything you want to say off the top?
No, I think I'm good on that.
Cool. So again, 3x3 playing surface. I think the best way to approach talking about the game is actually talking about the contents of the box that you get. So when you buy Don't Look Back, it's $100. So you're going to be looking at about a straight up $100 US. And it comes in a flat, very awesome matte black box. And the box itself has a gorgeous cabin terrain, along with a well, a hatch, a bunch of fences, a graveyard, and a shed to create some of the things that you want to put on the table for playing the game. And then it also comes with 7 resin miniatures, 6 being the cast and 1 being the killer. Oh, this is a good place to talk about what Don't Look Back is. Don't Look Back is we talked about it being a cooperative game, but it is a horror game simulator. Mm-hmm. So it is, if you think about early 90s slasher film horror, that is what this game is all about. So late 80s, early 90s, right? Even I think going back to the 70s for some of the tropes and the things that are coming into this. And all the horror movie tropes you could possibly want are here.
Yep.
And what you are trying to do as the players is guide your cast through the given scenario, surviving the killer. And the different scenarios are, there are different kinds of killers, and we'll get into how the killers work, but all the scenarios are vastly different. And there are also expansion packs, and the expansions, you guys, so awesome. They come in VHS cases.
Yeah, that's totally one of the coolest things about this game.
The packaging comes in really, really awesome VHS cases with the minis packed inside of them. The measuring widget that comes in the box is actually a chef's knife that is notched out in inches. So you actually get a knife for the measuring device. And it also comes with all the wood tokens you need for status tracking, wounds, and fear in the game. Mm-hmm. So you get beautiful wood tokens for all the tracking you need to do, plus the wood terrain, plus the characters and rules. So, I mean, really, it's like a 3x3 mat and some trees, and you're golden. That's what you need to play. And they just happen to sell those, too, if you need them, I guess.
Just so happens.
I feel like I'm shilling the stuff. I promise there's no paid promotion here. We're just, trying to look out for an awesome small hobby company. Okay, so now that we've disorganized and very badly talked about some of the basic things, let's get into like how this game actually works. So there's some really important things in this game. The first thing is that when you set up your 3x3, the table is going to be set up in quadrants, and the quadrants are notated as A, B, C, and D. So you're thinking about you're taking your 3x3 and really just making 4 even squares. And the reason that is important is that every killer has their MO and then their visage. And the MO and visage combined to make a sort of comprehensive set of AI actions that the killer takes. And And those actions can be dictated by certain things in the table quarters, as well as placement of your what are called fright tokens and points of interest and all that setup is based on the table quarters. So it's an interesting way, I think, of making scenario design, because it makes it very easy to read a scenario and set the table out if you're thinking of it in those 4 quadrants.
Right.
Another thing to note is that the game is primarily a D20, D10, D5 system. It comes with D10s and a D20. Skill checks are all done on a D20, and your skills that are going to be most important here are combat and awareness for your characters. And basically what you do when you're making one of those checks is you look at your relevant stat, you add or subtract any relevant modifiers, and then you roll a dice looking to get under your stat. So if you have a combat 8, you roll a D20 and you're looking for 8 or under, or, combat 12, 12 or under, etc. So think of it like Infinity.
I was going to say, that sounds familiar.
Yes. It's a lot like Infinity. And that's the primary means of skill checks is with D20s. And then most of the other effects in the game are based on D10s. And we'll talk about how that works. So the flow of Don't Look Back. It's a game played in 3 phases. So you have a fright phase, a killer phase, and a character phase. And so as you read through the rule book, it's sort of weird to put everything together, because the game is almost strange to read and understand the structure until you start playing it. And I'm not envious of them, the way that they had to write the rule book, because it is, and Paul, I don't know I think I probably presented it to you in a really clean way, but it is, I think, a challenge to write a rule set like this. But basically the way the rule book lays it out is it shows you how to set up a game, and then it gives you the scenarios. Instead of the scenarios being in the back of the book, they're in the front of the book. And then it goes specifically into how the game works. So your fright phase. In the fright phase, what you do essentially is there are tokens on the board that are called fright tokens. And the fright tokens are non-static. They can move around. Game effects can do things with them. But basically, this is the way that the game establishes tension. So at the beginning of every fright phase, you roll a D10, and based on the round that it is, triggers will happen based on your roll. Mm-hmm. So in the first turn, for example, you roll a D10, and your fright tokens only trigger if you roll a 10. And then in turn 2, the fright tokens trigger on a 6 or higher. And then in turn 3, they trigger on a 5 or higher, a 4 or higher, a 3 or higher, right? Mm-hmm. So the longer the game goes on, the more likely your fright tokens are going to trigger.
Right.
So what happens if... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really cool way of rising the tension. And it basically guarantees that if you haven't had the killer by turn 6, the killer will turn up on turn 6.
Right.
Because when you roll for your fright tokens, basically what happens is you roll for each of the fright tokens that's in play. And then if you get to the last fright token and you haven't summoned the killer based on your fright token roll, that last fright token will always be the killer. So it basically, you're going to encounter the killer in one of the first 6 turns is basically how it works out. But also the fright tokens can move toward you. They can do things like flipping the lights, and the lights in the game can remove some of the fear that your characters are feeling, because your characters have 2 relevant life stats. One is fear, and one is their standard stamina. All your characters have 10 stamina and a variable amount of fear. Mm-hmm. And then if your character ever has double their fear, it's the same as dying. Essentially, they're scared to death and ineffective.
Okay.
So after the fright phase, you move into the killer phase.
Dum dum dum.
Dun, dun, dun. Then before we talk about the killer phase, it's actually pretty cool to talk about how the killers work. And this is actually the way the rule book does it, is in between the fright phase and describing the killer phase is how you build killers and what the killers do. So every killer is a combination of 3 things. It's a combination of an MO, a visage, and traits. And basically every one of these killers has one MO, one visage, and 2 traits. And those things combined, again, to make a totally unique killer. And what the MOs do are basically dictate how the killer comes out onto the table. So it could be that you place the killer 6 inches away from the most characters possible and in the open. It could be so that it's 6 inches away from the character who's the most frightened and behind them. It could be like, one of my favorite ones is the killer MO called One Step Ahead, which says place the killer 6 inches from the characters and in an open space as close to the board center section that has the most characters in it. And the character will move toward the closest character. So what that means is essentially, like, because of the way the points of interest work, you're generally trying to head toward the center of those quadrants. So it feels like the killer is always ahead of you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I can see that after having played it, I can see that being like quite frustrating.
Mm-hmm. And you have this creeping dread all the time as you see those fear tokens. You're like, shit, right?
Yep.
As it should be in a game that's based off of a 1980s horror movie.
Right, but you also so our killer in our game, the way that he was programmed was to be behind terrain. Mm-hmm. Like, it was called Just Out of Sight. So it was basically like, look at all your characters, find the one that has the lowest terror and where you can place the killer behind a piece of terrain. So he lunges out of the terrain and scares the shit out of your characters.
That's cool.
Yeah, he was very Jason-esque.
Yes, Jason-esque is the way. And that is what it was. It was our killer was designed to be like Jason.
To be Jason, gotcha.
And then you have your visages. So your visages in the core book are mundane, mutilated, and familiar. And these visages, what they do is they tell you how many wounds the characters have, what special thing your characters get when they drive the killer off. Because you can't ever kill the killer in this game. All the best you can do is make the killer go away for a turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're not killable. And then also what their attacks are. And they're super cool. Like, just as an example, I'm going to talk about the one we didn't play because we're going to talk about that probably as we describe our game. But the Mundane Killer, as an example, here's a cool thing. So the attacks, it says revolver, the mundane, and also that every killer has multiple attacks and special abilities, and they resolve in a specific order. And so that's important. And the way that mundane works is revolver. Mundane Killer will only target a character with a weapon with this attack. This attack can be used while the killer is in base-to-base contact with another character. And it's basically a range 12 revolver. So what this character is doing is looking at, because his next attack is called Strangle. So what he's doing is he's got his hands around the neck of the character directly in front of him, and he's looking for any of their friends with a weapon and shooting a gun at them.
Huh. Okay.
So that it's just so cool the way that it if you think about that horror movie character, right? He's got someone up against the wall holding their neck and simultaneously looking over at the guy with the baseball bat and shooting a gun at him. Mm-hmm. And it makes these really thematic feeling killers. And then also the killers have traits, and there's basically 10 traits that roll from you add 2 inches to the killer's movement, or any character that activates within line of sight of the killer gains terror because they have dead eyes, or the character is supernatural. So at the start of the killer phase, it always heals one of their injuries. Or they're armed and dangerous, which means every time a character gets injured, that character takes additional injuries from bleeding until one of the other player characters takes a heal action on them. And so when you take these MOs, right, because there's the 5 MOs, 3 visages, and 10 traits, and you roll 2 traits, you have this huge variety of the way the killers will act.
They aren't all necessarily specific, right? So you can kind of make a killer.
Exactly. So the six scenarios in the thing is that you have a themed killer. And all of the 6 scenarios give you a theme killer, but the game encourages you to create your own scenarios. And it also basically says that if you don't want to play with one of the themed characters, instead of playing with one of the themed characters, like for us, our mission was called The Escape, and the themed killer was the Lakeshore Killer, aka Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm. Jason, right.
And you can always, instead of that, when the killer would first be revealed, you roll a D10 and as a D5 to create their MO. And then you roll a D6 to find out their visage. And then you roll in a D10 twice to find their 2 traits. And you get a random killer that way.
That's fun.
So you're not going to know what the killer is until it shows up.
I like that. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, super cool. And we should just, for a second, I want to talk about the 6 scenarios that come in the book. Or at least a couple of them. Because the one that we played was definitely like, find the keys and run away from Jason and get away in the truck, right? But there's also my favorite one, and the one that I want to play next when we play Paul, is Well in the Woods. And so the Well in the Woods, the MO is lunge and the visage is disjointed.
So is this like The Ring?
It is The Ring. You start at the well, and then the whole scenario is trying to stop the curse.
Awesome.
And I actually have a Malifaux mini that's going to be the killer. It's perfect for it.
What's her face?
Oh, it's Ogaharu Batari. It's the henchman for Asami.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, so that, like the level of like creativity that you can have and the randomness of the killer can really, really make it awesome.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't even talked about the killer phase, right? But what the killer does is so once you get to the killer phase, if the killer is on the board, you move the killer. So that's a D10 roll. And then the killer moves that close to the nearest, or the character according to its targeting priority for the MO. And then it gets plus 1 inch for every terror on the target. And additionally, an extra 2 inches if the character tripped. Because a thing we haven't talked about because we haven't talked about the character phase yet is there's like all sorts of bad things that can happen to your character while they're moving around. Oh
yeah,
as it should be.
And we don't need to talk about all the rules, just to know that there's like there are like the concept of lights, and it's good when your characters are in the light and bad when they're not, but it's also hard to keep light active, and the lights typically flicker as they should in a horror movie.
Right, so I'm just going to interject here now. So I am not a fan of horror movies of the old variety, new variety, or anything like that. So all I know of horror movies is tropes. I will tell you right now, just me listening to you, never playing this game, and just listening to you explain these phases, this sounds exactly like the tropes I know of a horror movie. These guys have done a great job. I just want to interject there and just say, as someone outside, not a fan of this genre, I am intrigued at how well that they have stuck to these tropes and done such a good job.
Our work here is done. Thanks for listening. Bye.
And also, we should note that Chris didn't know anything about this game before we started talking.
I know nothing. I haven't looked at the rules. I have barely looked at the models. So I know that it's based on horror movie tropes. That's all I know.
So basically the killer, right? We're getting back to the killer phase. The killer moves toward the characters as it should, and then it takes its special actions and its attacks. And then it moves on to the character phase. And so in the character phase, basically what happens is each one of your player characters, and you have 4 per scenario, the game comes with 6, and the way that encourages you to pick your 6 is to either choose them or roll a d6. And each of the characters is numbered. So you roll a d6 until you've rolled 4 separate numbers, and those are the 4 characters you bring. And now a character in the game gets 2 actions per character phase. You get it's 2 quick actions or 1 quick action and a long action. But let's just talk a little bit, because there's I don't think we won't have time to talk through all of the actions because there are a ton of them. But just some examples, right? It's moving. There's an action called Let Me Take a Look, which helps you like patch up one of your fellow player characters. There's Kick It In, and so this is how you break into kick open locked doors, which again, horror movie trope, perfectly, banging on a locked door with your foot until you kick it in. By the way, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later in our game. It was so fun. Anyway, you can stumble away from the killer, and oh man, this rule. I didn't realize how fun this was going to be until it became so relevant in our game. Because you can't move away from a killer when a killer's in base to base to you. You have to take the stumble away action. And so basically it's the character makes a 2-inch move directly away from the killer. And then after the move, you have to make an awareness check, which is rolling that D20 and rolling under the thing. Now, let me tell you, you can have an awareness 12 and fail this 3 times in a row. How do I know this? It happened to us.
Oh, poor Maxie.
Poor Max. But it's so great. You can make snapshot actions, which is the only way you can take 2 shoot or melee actions in a turn. And the snapshot actions are at a heavy penalty. And these are short actions. And then for long actions, you can do things like a search. And if you successfully search, this is how you find items and weapons in the houses and out in the open. You can investigate, and investigation is all based on points of interest. You can take range attack, melee attacks, and do things like revealing fright tokens, which basically allows you to pull a fright token off the board. So it's pretty cool, the amount of player choice that you have. I think in a lot of games like this, it's really easy to feel like you don't have a lot of player agency, but the game gives you a ton of it because there's so many different things you can do.
Yeah, it does. And I never felt like, oh, if only I could do this, right? Like all the options were fantastic for what we were trying to do.
Yeah. Definitely. You absolutely feel like you get to do the stuff that you want to do and that you would do in a horror movie.
And I was just going to say that, and they all felt appropriate to the genre.
Yep. So a couple other things that are fun is your character can trip.
Boy, can they.
Basically, one of the concepts in this game is fear. And as soon as you've taken fear, if you move twice, you always have to take a check. And you can trip.
Yeah.
So that's bad news. And if you trip, it basically means the killer moves faster toward you. And you have to spend one of your next quick actions to stand up.
Right.
Also noted, there aren't many terrain rules in this game. You basically define what's called area terrain and what's called difficult terrain. Difficult terrain halves your movement, and area terrain is one of, in my opinion, the core heartbeats of the game. Because whenever one of your characters either rolls within 2 inches of area terrain or moves into a new room or through a door or window, they have to roll on a jump scare table. And the jump scare tangle can do anything from making the lights flicker in the area. Mm-hmm. It can give you some terror. It can allow you to remove some terror. But the worst thing that can happen, and again, relevancy for us in our game, is you can roll a 1, and that immediately summons the killer into base-to-base contact with the character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no,
especially
bueno.
on turn
good.
1 or 2.
Turn 1 or 2, yeah. It was real bad.
Jeez.
Yeah,
we had some bad luck there.
But every time you're moving past area terrain, you're tempting fate. And I think, as a person who's setting the game up, I always try to make the game as dense with area terrain as possible. Because, that's the part of the game is the fun of, the kind of random nutty shit that happens to you while you're playing. And we've talked about it for the most part here now. Your character takes the action they can. You also have a stat called luck, which allows you, and we actually never used any luck. Luck allows you to remove terror or heal injuries or re-roll skill rolls. And boy, we probably should have used some luck, Paul, and we didn't.
Probably.
But yeah, you can open doors and windows. You can do all this stuff. And, basically, what this does is that when you combine this with the scenarios, and just for an example, I'll go ahead and read one. I'll read the one we played, and then we can talk about our game. This is how we'll transition nicely into talking about how this game actually feels when you're playing it.
Yeah.
So we played the escape. And the way the escape works is in that table quadrant A, you set up this huge cabin. And I mean huge. It is like a 9-inch by 9-inch piece of terrain. It's massive. It has a removable roof with 5 interior rooms, as well as 2 floors. It's got an attic floor as well. And the roof pops out so that you can move characters around in the roof. It is a spectacular piece of terrain. Now, on the opposite corner, you put a car with its headlights on. And then you mark a bunch of stuff, a bunch of points of interest on the board. And basically what it's saying is you hike down to the lake's edge to meet your friends at their cabin. When you arrive, you find what's left of them strewn about the site. It doesn't seem like an animal could have caused this sort of carnage. You see your friends 4x4 up the road. Now you just need to find the keys. They must be in the pocket of one of these bodies somewhere.
There you go. Just go rummaging around your dead friend's pockets.
And that's what you do. This scenario
okay.
is that you go and you search all the bodies trying to find the keys, and then you get the hell out of there. And that's the objective is like, you know, you're and it's crazy like the way this one works. Like every scenario has a different way of like putting fright onto your characters. And in this game, it's that the first 3 turns of the game, everybody gains a point of terror because you're like basically walking onto the site of a massacre and seeing all these bodies, and it causes you to be super frightened. Yeah. And so by the time the killer comes on, you're supposed to have a bunch of fright built up, but you know, we didn't get so lucky.
Yeah, instead of fright, we had a killer.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, and then in this
is why y'all's game went so
well,
fast.
we actually won. We pulled it out. Not without a casualty, but we made it.
We still played what? 10, 11 of the 14?
10 rounds. Yeah. 10 of 14. Yeah. We won on turn 10 of 14. And we also got lucky, right? So the way this game works is, or the way this particular scenario works is you've got 1 point of interest token in each room of the house, and then an additional 4 outside the cabin. And when you roll up to one of them, you can search the point of interest, as a quick action, and you roll a d20. And basically it's on a 19 or a 20, you find the keys. And if you don't find the keys, okay, you get +1 for every one you've already searched cumulatively, right? Because you're like basically searching the bodies, ruling them out as the person who has the keys for the truck.
Right.
So the first one you check, you need an 18 or 19 or a 20. The next one you need 18 or 19 or 20. Then 17, 18, 19 or 20, right? And we happen to find the keys on the 4th search. So finding it on the 4th out of 9 was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
And the 9th search is always the keys. That's the thing, right? So like it's the 5, or no, it's actually 6 because there's one in the attic too. So it's 10. But we found it on the 4th search rather than having to search all 10 of them.
Thank God.
Oh my God.
Jeez, we wouldn't have survived.
I know, right? Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, we were really close to 3 or 4 other ones, but that's true. You're right. It was perilous. And what happened to us, right, is we basically busted out of the scene and like turn one, the last activation of turn 1, we summoned the killer with a jump scare launch.
Kevin, do we want to do like a little more detailed to show how narrative this game is?
Yeah, dude, you took some notes. Go for it.
Yeah, so and I guess some of the major events as going through, and to give you an idea of exactly how narrative this game comes across, right? We moved our first activation of the game. We moved Seth, right? Because he's super slow, so we figured we'll start moving him, right? Mm-hmm. So he moved up, and he came into within 2 inches of a tree, right? So we had a roll on the jump scare, but what we rolled was laugh it off, right? So that's like in the horror movie where like something happens and they're just like, oh, haha, it's just a squirrel.
Yep.
Right, and then after that, the next guy we moved was Mason.
Holden.
Holden. Sorry. Yeah. James Holden. And so he creeped up to where Seth was. So he was near those same trees. So we had to roll on the jump scare table for him. But his was called Tapped on the Shoulder. Right? So it's like when somebody's looking and is scared about what's behind that tree, and then their friend comes up to them and pokes them on the shoulder, and it's like, hey, it's just me. We're fine. So the way that narratively told the story is that Seth walked up there, saw something in the trees, checked it out, and then comes back around Holden and is like, hey, here we are. We're good.
Exactly. Yep. And that is exactly how the first two activations worked out.
Right. And it creates that such a strong narrative while you're playing it. It was fantastic. Like everything we did, I could just visualize it happening so well. Yeah, for sure. And then now that I'm thinking, I'm remembering how it actually worked. It was turn 2, right? It was turn 2 in the Fright Phase, because what ended up happening is we got everybody up into position, and then we rolled to see if we were going to roll for fright tokens in turn 2, which is really low odds, but of course that was our odds. Yep. And
we rolled to hit the fright tokens, and then basically what happened is the fright token that was closest to our characters became the killer.
Yeah, you rolled the 1 on that right away.
Yep, right away. And he rolled right up on us right away.
And the other thing too that was really cool, and going back a little bit here, Kevin, is that like even just the characters, looking at who they were, you could just start knowing a little bit about the story anyway, right? Like we had the baseball playing jock and the cheerleader, who obviously in my brain they're dating.
Sure.
Right. And then you have the nerdy guy that, was out.
Their cousin. Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. For whatever reason, she had to bring along her dorky brother or whatever, because her mom made her. And then you had Holden, who was like, the maintenance man at the camp or whatever, wherever they were, like to me, he was kind of the older guy with the gun being like, no, we're going to get you out of here.
Yep, exactly. And so what ended up happening on turn 2, right, is that we got a little bit lucky because the killer came out of a fright token, and then we rolled real low on his movement. So he basically ran out at us from the trees, and our killer's visage was such that any character that could see him got immediately frightened. So we got a bunch of additional frightened tokens as this dude came out of the woods at us. And then we, basically the next turn, right, if we talk about it, poor Seth the nerd is searching his pockets frantically and finds his phone. Mm-hmm. While he's searching for his phone, Holden pops a shotgun blast into the killer, and Max rolls in and smacks this dude in the face with a baseball bat.
Yep. And Alice was making herself useful by digging through the pockets of a dead person. Yeah,
and exactly. And we were basically what happened is we were like, oh shit, this is who did it. Alice, move up, find the keys. So she, we had the killer coming at us, and she was running away, trying to get to the keys while we were dealing with a psychopath with a hammer.
Right. And Seth is trying to call somebody on his phone.
Yes. And Seth is now like, oh God, guys. And mechanically how it worked is we took a search action with Seth, ended up basically knowing we found an item, and then the item we rolled was a phone. Yep. And so that's how if you think about it narratively, he always had the phone, right? It was just he was trying to search his pockets for the phone.
Yeah. Or that was the spot he got reception in.
Or he had dropped his phone and he was scrambling to get it, and that was what took the time. Yeah, yep. and the way that this works out is that you can call a supporting character in, and what we did was we called a supporting character, and the supporting character basically walks in and takes the attention of the killer.
Yep.
We used this person to screen our advance toward the cabin to find the keys.
Yeah, sorry, Ranger Sally.
Yeah, poor Ranger Sally. She got her ass whooped.
Oh, but she did the right thing, right? She came to help out the kids.
Yep, exactly. And then basically she tanked the killer for 2 turns and then got her ass beat.
Yeah, well, she took one attack.
Oh, one hit, right? And then it was this. Well, but that's really tanking for 2 turns,
That's
right?
true.
Because
Okay,
the 2 attacks.
And this is the
No, this was the
Ranger
Ranger that Seth called in.
Oh, the Ranger. I was about to say that's
No, what the
nice.
cheerleader was doing in the meantime was kicking in the door to the fucking cabin.
Yeah, so you have to get into a locked door, you have to roll on a chart. And this is what's happening, right? It's like the killer is advancing on us. We're like moving backwards. Holden is pumping shotgun blasts.
And that was the round when Holden completely whiffed, right? Or no, Max completely whiffed.
Max completely whiffed by the baseball bat, and then so did Holden, right? Holden tried to shoot a shotgun blast and completely, I mean, we rolled a 20, which is like the furthest from his combat value we could have rolled.
And then he had to reload.
And then he had to reload his damn shotgun. And all the time the cheerleader is like searching bodies and, and just beasting it, man. She made it to the cabin first. And her first attempt, the cheerleader has one of the worst combat values in the whole game. And first attempt to kick in the door, man, she just busted that thing wide open.
Yep.
Dude, she don't need no man.
Hell no, man. She just kicked that door right in. And what ends up happening is Holden blasts our killer, and you can do what's called driving the killer off, which basically gives you a turn to catch your breath. And Holden finally connected with a 5 damage shotgun blast because the damage of the shotgun is random. It's like a D5 amount of damage, and we rolled the additional 5 damage we needed to drive him off. And while he was driven off, we were able to find the keys. Alice was able to find the keys in the house.
But the important thing about that, though, was when it happened, right? Because that was our first activation of that turn. Mm-hmm. And we had figured out what we were going to do in multiple steps to try and search the most amount of interest points.
Yep.
But we nailed it on the first one. So then we were like, we got him. Run.
We got to run. And so Max has this ability. Our jock has an ability called Baby Blues. And what Baby Blues allows you to do is target a female character and give them a free move directly toward him. So
your eyes are
so
pretty.
we moved Max in front of the door and flashed the Baby Blues over at Alice to get Alice a little bit further out of the house so that we could get closer to the car faster. And the rest of the game was this perilous run from the cabin back to the car, right? As like all these teenagers are like, oh shit, we gotta go. And we're like running as fast as we can. And I think the most dramatic part of this is that, that Alice is like, please, Max, please, you have to save us. And Max just bolos up, man. Like, mans up, gets up to the killer, tries to
wait though, but the killer was off the board, right? So first he pops out.
Yeah.
Because now we're at a point where he's going to pop out. He pops out near Max, charges Max down, and it just becomes an all-out brawl. Like it's one of those situations where Max is like, go, get out of here. You got the keys. Go.
Yep. And so what we're doing the whole time, and the plan, you can't see me air quoting. The plan is to take the action to take that like 2-inch dodge away from the killer and then run, right? So that we can put 7 inches between us and the killer and hope to roll low on the killer's next turn so that he doesn't catch up to take another swing. Only every single time Max trips.
Yeah, he tripped every time. But narratively, he had already taken a few swats from the killer. And here's the cool thing is the killer has to take combat rolls too. And so in our scenario, the killer's combat value is 15, which means it's basically like 3 out of 4 times he's hitting you. Right. Or 75% chance, right? He's going to hit you. But the first couple swings, man, Max tanked him. Because, the killer rolled like a 17 and then a 20. And the way we were, like, describing that is, like, Max is just, like, blocking the hits with his bat or whatever. But Max keeps, like, tripping and backing up, right? And he's just, like, swatting away. But unfortunately, last turn of the game, everybody's at the car, right? Like, all 3 of our other characters are at the car, like, screaming for Max. They're like, Max, come on, you can do it. We're using Alice
the
has got, like, the
cheerleaders.
keys in the car, it's running at this point, going, come on.
She's got a megaphone. We're like, come on, get out of there. And he tries to take one more desperate run away, trips, and the killer basically runs up on him and crits him and kills him.
Yeah.
But the scenario was that we had to have 3 people. So at that point, we moved the final 2 characters into base contact with the car and just got the hell out of there.
But Alice didn't have to watch her boyfriend die.
But Alice had to watch her boyfriend get his brains bashed in.
Oh.
And so that was a game of Don't Look Back.
Yeah. It
was so fun.
That is crazy.
I mean, like, I don't know about you, Paul, but I'm like, man, we got to like figure out how to get another game played this weekend.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm totally stoked and ready to go because it was so much fun. It was ridiculous fun.
Yeah, and it's definitely like, so the way I was thinking about it is like, it's the beer and pretzelsest game that ever beer and pretzel. Like,
and it is because since it's all cooperative, right?
Yep.
You're not worried about you're not worried about the millimeters. You're not worried about, oh, what do I do next? And and you're talking it through, especially the way we did it, where it was mostly group discussion as to what we wanted to accomplish.
Right. And also, like, you don't really, like, winning this game isn't all that important, right? Right? Because it's really like, even if your characters get slaughtered, it's still a fun story.
It's a storyteller.
Right. It's just a horror movie where the killer it's Jeepers Creepers, right? Like, everybody fucking dies.
Yep. Yeah, no, it was great. It really was. It was a lot of fun. And I was shocked at how quickly the narrative started being told
through the mechanics.
Yeah, through the mechanics and even just being like our instinct to be like, oh, this is what's happening, right? Like, we spent so much time just being excited about how it translated to a movie scene.
Yeah, and that's really great because the turns are snappy.
Yes. Oh, they were very quick.
Yeah, the turns are super fast. And the cool thing with the turns being like it being quick to play is that you have that time. Like, we had like basically in the time it takes to watch a horror movie, played one, right?
Yeah. Yep. And that was also with the disadvantage of, everything being at your house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And dealing with the internet and talking that way and being like, oh, what's that die say? Can you tell me what it rolled? So and we had the scare cam so we could see the table and all that. So that worked out well. But the other thing, too, is just that it felt like there was a lot of tension in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And it built, and those last couple turns of running, it was like I was cheering them along.
Yeah. You're like cheering for them. You're like, come on, guys, you can make it. Right. Because as the like guiding hand, you understand all the ways that it can go wrong.
Right. And your excitement every time you rolled.
Oh yeah, you could like hear me hooting and hollering. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then I'm sitting there going, wait, what was it? What was the number?
And I'm like, woo, we got it. We rolled right on the number.
Yeah, so there was a lot of fun. It was just a straight up good time. Like, this could be like an awesome party game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I like, after playing games, I want to, like, next time we have our local convention in Madison, I just want to run it because you get free admission if you run like 12 hours worth of games.
Oh, there you go.
So I just want to run,
cool.
Like 4 or 5 sessions of this game.
Yeah.
The next time. Cause like, you don't like it doesn't, you can have as many people, like it could be like 6 people, right. But it's just so fun, man. It was so fun.
Yeah. Cause no one's taking on the role of a character. So it's like you all are deciding what that one character.
Or you could say, hey, roll this dice, whatever number you roll, you take this person and this is the character you'll control for the game.
Yep.
Right, but yeah, when you go to that like Halloween party, you bring this and you've got like 15 friends or whatever.
Just,
like all y'all can just
everybody
chill.
Like, oh God, what's gonna happen? Right? Like, do this, let's go.
Right, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Like, there's no reason you couldn't have a huge group of people around a table playing this game.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really impressed with it. I really am.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a ton of fun. I wish I would have been able to
next time.
join. Next time.
But I do want to like talk a little bit about like, because it's all done basically by this one small company, right? So again, Blackside Studios. You go to their site, you buy the core game, but then there's also a playmat you can buy. A thing to note is that the killer that comes in the box is a multi-part resin kit that has multiple head, weapon, and a severed head option that it can carry in its other hand. So the game actually you can be encouraged to buy multiple, and you can buy the killer. Like I'm intending to buy one. And so I basically painted mine like a baghead, like prison escapee, but I'm planning to get another one and model it like Mike Myers, right? So it has like the chef's knife and that like nondescript white mask, because that is also one of the options for the head.
Yeah. That nondescript William Shatner mask.
Yeah. The inside out William Shatner mask. Yeah. But also, I have the Attack of the Greys, and I ordered a 12-inch toy UFO from Amazon that I'm waiting for.
I want to play that one so bad.
So that may be what we play this weekend.
Maybe we can stream it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But there's also like a crazy train, like a hobo train killer with a chainsaw. And there's like a pumpkin king with a scythe as a killer. And they're going to be coming out with more killers and heroes and supporting the game. So you can really get a lot. Also, again, worth noting, any moderns that you play, so any modern miniature games that you play, this game has a very good assortment of like woodsy and cabiny terrain.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're getting enough stuff in that $100 box to be able to contribute to other games you play.
For sure. Yeah, the cabin is great for all sorts. I mean, if you play
even the well and stuff like that.
Yeah, nice. The well, the shed, everything, man. It's just good, all around good terrain. And plus, it comes with like a couple dozen tokens that are a blood drop on one side and a skull on the other. You can use those for like wound tokens in any game.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, the 12-inch measuring knife. worth calling out how cool it is. And honestly, you should go and look up the game just to see the knife measuring widget. It's so rad.
Especially your golden one.
I mean, to me, the best part is just the VHS.
Oh, dude, the VHS, and the coolest thing is like the characters one, the one that so one of the VHS tapes actually comes in the core box, and the one that comes in the core box has like battle foam in it that has spaces for the characters and the killer in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
So it actually is like a carrying case for them after you've built and painted them.
Kind of like one of those like blue, was it K cases? I think they're called.
Yeah, or like a Feldherr style case. Yeah, it's like it's really nice. It's just a small little VHS case again that's got 6 wells for the characters and then 1 bigger well for the killer. But yeah, man, Don't Look Back. Final thoughts. Like, this is a riot of a game. Like, I've been waiting so long for a cooperative war game that really works, and B, I love horror movies, so this game is like perfect for me. And I love it. I couldn't endorse it strong enough. If like any part of what we talked about excites you, like I can, with like no reluctance, recommend it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm clearly not the horror movie person you are. But however, I do like cooperative games, and I do like games that tell a story. And this really scratched both of those itches.
Oh yeah, it's like a playing a it's a one-shot RPG without a DM.
Actually, what it is, Kevin, is it is the Arkham Horror card game, but easier to play.
I don't know if the design space is quite as big as the Arkham Horror one, but it is the thing that this game has over Arkham Horror is the like visual aspect.
Yeah,
right?
I felt like some of it was very similar to that with the the AI and the talking with your opponent or your partner
person.
whatever. and figuring out what you're going to do felt very similar, and even just some of the mechanics of like the dread building throughout the game, right? And knowing that bad shit's going to happen to you, which, you know, is instrumental to anything of the Eldritch Horror series. But, you know, it was great. I absolutely loved it. And it played really quick.
Yeah.
I still can't believe we played 10 turns.
In an hour and a half.
Yeah.
With a rules explanation at the top of it.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was about to say, you guys said you were starting about 8 o'clock, you know, Eastern time, and, you know, I think we were on to record by, you know, 9:20, 9:30.
Yep. Well, we got going a little bit before 8 our time.
Right, but then I also imagine, you know, there was rules explanations, there was, you know, just, you know, shooting the breeze kind of
camera
stuff
set up
in that hour and a half as well, too. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. At some point, I'm going to pick it up.
All right. Chris, what do you think? Having just listened and been sort of listening to us gush about it for a while.
I mean, I think it's cool for people that like that genre. It's really awesome, the kind of cooperative, kind of just chill way that you could play it, you know, just sitting there with a bunch of friends on the couch doing it. That's very different from miniature games, so it intrigues me. I don't know if it's something I would pick up just because it's not a genre I enjoy, but I would definitely, like, somebody brought it to a party or it was like, hey, let's play this. I was like, sure, I'll do it.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend it if you knew someone that had it. It's so fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
but that's it. You're looking for a narrative wargaming horror experience, man. This game's great.
Yep. I fully support it and definitely recommend it. All right. Well, if you like what you heard, come hang out with us on our Discord, because our Discord is awesome, not because of us, but because of the people that are on it. And if you really liked what you heard and you want to support us through Patreon, we have one of those, patreon.com/3meninawargame. We are on all of the social medias, so you can find us there. Been quiet on them lately, but not so much going forward. And then thanks to Static City for the awesome music at the top and bottom of the show. And whatever you do, don't look back.
Bye!